Well, it's time for a commentary video, a proper commentary video. And this is one that hits close to home for me, and I'm sure possibly a lot of you, a kind of a current issue. And let me just preface this by saying that COVID-19, the vaccine is safe and effective. You should all get your boosters and do exactly whatever it is you're told without questioning, and don't do your own research. So I got that out of the way for the YouTubes. But I was thinking about the number of people I know, older people in the community that I live in, that have various health issues. And it reminded me of this book by Eustace Mullins. This is Murder by Injection. And I'm not going to, I could kind of review it with this, but I really wanted to go back and do a proper full review of this because this is an excellent, excellent book. And this is originally from 1988. This is the third printing from 1995, but originally from 1988. And this is all about the corruption within the medical establishment. And of course, since Eustace Mullins wrote this, that has accelerated and the corruption has exploded in my opinion. But what I wanted to specifically talk about is I'm curious, those of you who have, and some of you might be of the age where you might be on some of these meds, but there's 3 different meds that are typically recommended for people like my age and older. Is cholesterol meds, medication to lower your cholesterol, high blood pressure medication, medication to lower your blood pressure, and then blood sugar medication to get your blood sugar in order. And the fascinating thing, just to kind of lay the groundwork for this, the fascinating thing to me in the last few years is where I really started to question this was when I would accompany my dad on trips to the VA, and he had an incident where he fell and hit his head, and it got me looking through all his meds and seeing the side effects and everything. And it was insane to me that he was on 3 different medications, all of these, cholesterol, blood sugar, and blood pressure, a high blood pressure medication. And all of these medications had side effects that were way worse than anything they were supposed to be preventing. And these were obvious, visible side effects to anyone paying attention. But the crazy part in this, and this is kind of my main point in this, is these were all based on arbitrary number, I shouldn't say arbitrary, or allegedly important numbers that are put out by the medical industry to say, okay, your blood sugar is X. And really, for someone your age, your blood sugar should be Y and Z or whatever, or should be between these 2 points or whatever. So to get you to where you need to be, we're going to give you this medication. Or another scenario is you're of the age where X starts to happen. So we're going to put you on medication X, Y, or Z or whatever. And this medication is going to prevent this horrible thing that happens to so many people, and it's going to prevent it from happening to you because it's a preventative thing. And those are the kind of the 2 approaches: is your numbers are off, or this could happen because you're in that age group, or you're kind of in that area of your life where this sort of thing typically happens. So you need to take this. But the fascinating thing about those 2 approaches in medicine is they're not actually addressing a problem, an objective problem that you or I could actually measure. It's all based on, the experts have told us that someone like you should have their numbers here, and these pills you're going to pop, they're going to get your numbers to this point. And the sad thing is, it's recently come out more and more about some of the medications, like some of the statin drugs and stuff like that for cholesterol, that a lot of the side effects for those drugs are suspiciously similar to Alzheimer's and dementia type symptoms. And that got me thinking about, I'd done some commentary on this a while back where I was talking about the kind of the way that television has chipped away at our ability to pass on our culture to our children and grandchildren, and of course to receive our culture from people older than us. And the drugs seem to be doing a very similar thing of everyone is at the place that they're at in their life for the very first time. Wherever you're at in your life, that's your first time there. So I'm 51 years old. This is my first time being 51. I'll never be 51 again. So why that is important is that can easily be exploited. If you're not in good communication with your community and your family, it's very easy to think that whatever you're experiencing is something that's typical, or you could be told that it's totally unique and an exception to the rule. So it's all up to the whim of the medical establishment to tell you the things you're feeling, seeing, whatever, or if you're not feeling and seeing those things, whether or not that's normal or whatever. For instance, if everything's going great, you might think everything's going great, and your doctor might say, yeah, gee, but your such and such numbers, really typically for someone your age, they need to be here, and they could go up. So we're going to go ahead and put you on X, Y, and Z to prevent that. And my dad is a great example of this. I love my dad, but he has an incredibly rich faith in the medical industry, and most people do. I'm not picking on him. This is very common. And my dad used to tell me this anecdote all when we were growing up about how when he had his last physical in the Navy before he left the Navy in the mid-60s, he had high blood pressure. But the Navy doctor told him when he was getting checked out, don't worry about it, you just have high blood pressure. Some people just have high blood pressure, so don't worry about it. Well, our family doctor, 30 years later, got my dad on some of the new latest, greatest meds for high blood pressure. So at the same time, my dad was telling me this anecdote and told me this as recently as just a couple of years ago about how he just had high blood pressure. Because the high priest of medicine, the family doctor told him, you got to take this for your blood pressure, he took this. And when you start looking at the symptoms of these medications, dizzy spells and lowering your blood pressure to the point that it could actually be, that becomes its own problem. It's almost like you're perpetually drunk. And when I was taking my dad to the VA, he had a bad fall, and they checked him out and wanted to do all kinds of other stuff to him. And they actually wound up pulling out part of one of his lungs, which I now really question whether or not that was even necessary. But after all that was done, I started driving him down to the VA because he couldn't drive himself anymore. And I started looking at the side effects of all these medications because at the time, I think 3 medications he was on that kind of that holy trinity of destruction there of blood sugar, cholesterol, and high blood pressure. And all of those, one of the main side effects you'll see is that confusion and dizziness and that being disoriented. And all 3 of them had that as a side effect. So the combined effect was a really potent effect on my dad. And I was amazed one day when I was down with him at the VA talking to his doctor, and I brought this up. I said, he's on X, Y, and Z, and these are all really hitting him really hard. And she was like, all right, well, we'll back off to such and such and change that to such and such. Okay. And I thought, wait, I'm just a guy telling you this, and you're just gonna totally change it just based on a few words, which in a way I was glad, but at the same time I'm thinking like no thought whatsoever is put into this. And so it really, again, got me digging and got me talking to my dad, really bending his ear about the medications he was on. And I finally convinced him. And this was probably around 2016, maybe 2017, late 2016, early 2017. And I finally talked him into going off some of these meds and just say, look, these are messing you up bad. And you could tell, like, there, when he was on his meds, when they were going full blast, he was almost like he was buzzed on all the things weren't firing off right, and it was like, not like you could talk to him, but you weren't really talking to him. And he got off of them and he felt great. And he was more lucid, more clear-headed. We could have more meaningful conversations. And then he freaked out because he was worried that he was about to go for his checkup with the VA, and he'd been off of them for about a week. And he was freaked out thinking, oh no, I've been a bad patient, so I need to take the meds again. And he didn't take a double dose, or he didn't suddenly pop all his pills at once. He just thought, I need to take them for my visit, so I'm being a good boy and they'll be happy with me. So he took the pills, and I didn't know this until I got a call from my mom a couple of nights, a night or two later, and it might have even just been like the night after he did this, to come over and help me get him up off the couch, because he had started taking his meds again, and they hit him so hard that he was totally out of it, to the point he sat on the couch all day long, from 8 or 9 in the morning all the way until about 10 at night, when my mom realized that he had not moved from that spot. And I had to literally help him get up out of, he didn't understand why he had been there. He was disoriented, but he had been sitting in literally one spot, had not moved from that spot all day long. That's how hard those meds hit him. Now, you're probably wondering, okay, great. So book guy, you're telling me about, sad family stories about medications, allegedly, or whatever. How does that fit into all of this? Well, when I step back and look at the big picture of this, combined with the media's effect on our psyche, and it's really sad, because we have so many people that I wouldn't say worship at the altar of mass media, but it's probably not too far off. But for the people that sit and take a steady diet of television, consume a steady diet of television every night or all day long, what it does as far as our culture goes is it says, my experience really isn't that much, because it's not on television. Because the really amazing stuff, the interesting things, the interesting people, they're on TV. I'm not. So right there, I'm just a guy out there doing my thing. And I'll tell you, if there's one thing my life has taught me, is everyone, literally everyone on the planet, is living a fantastic, unique story of their existence. Is all unique, all different. Everyone has experienced crazy stuff that you wouldn't believe if you weren't, if they didn't, if you didn't know better. But I'm not sure if I got my wording right on that. But literally everyone has a unique experience on this planet. And literally everyone has something worth sharing. And mass media robs us of that and says, what you have, your experience, is really not unique. It's not worth sharing. What's sharing is what's on television. So you've got dad, you got grandpa, you got great-grandpa that sit around and watch television, and two things happen. One, they start to discount their own experience, and they start to say, what I've experienced really isn't that important, really isn't that unique. And then, more importantly, they stop having unique experiences because they are in front of a television set. They've stopped living, they've stopped having unique experiences. So it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. And then we have the medical part of it that I just described. It's terrifying to me how many people, again, come back to my original point, that I know a lot of people at church, in the community, that are all suffering from ailments that they would attribute to age. But like I said earlier, we're all at the age we're at for the first time right now. So it's easy to misidentify some of those things that are going on if someone's in your ear telling you, oh, no, you should be taking a medication for that. Some of it is just aging, and we just roll with it and go with it and understand that we are mortal creatures and our time on this planet is finite, and a pill is not going to change that. So once we realize that, we should be very skeptical of what someone is trying to get us to take to adjust our condition or whatever, unless it's something, you know, painfully obvious that we obviously need medical help for. I'm not against medical treatment. I'm not against drugs. I'm not against antibiotics or whatever. My point is, when we're taking preventative drugs that then rot our brain to a point where we no longer can share our experience, then we gradually lose our ability to pass our culture on because, again, one, we're attached to pop culture to the point that we believe that's our lifeline to reality. And then we have the additional medical aspect of it, of all of our elders around us in our community are being slowly deteriorated through medicine and through medicines they have no business being on. And I would wager a guess that I would say probably 90% of the people on some of those drugs have no business taking those drugs. And I think it was some of the statin drugs recently that I found out that were even illegal to prescribe, or they had been banned in overseas. So, and especially when I research stuff like some of the cattle mutilation stuff about mad cow and the connection there too, it makes me wonder: is our overuse of cholesterol meds and other stuff that's jacking up people's head, is that the real source of that? But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. But my main point is to get you thinking about that kind of two-pronged approach that's really destroying our ability to have our own culture and then pass it on to our children and our relatives and our community around us. Because if we're not lucid, if we're taking drugs that destroy our minds under the auspices of it's improving my numbers, we can't be a useful part of our community. We can't affect any kind of change in anyone around us. And then the other part of that, of course, is the obvious one of mass media. If we're sitting down consuming massive quantities of mass media, we're not going to be able to contribute to our community. And in fact, the sad thing there is I couldn't tell you how many times I'll have people repeat stories to me off of the mass media as though they're their own. They tell, instead of relaying an experience to me that they've actually had, their experiences don't count anymore. So they start going into telling me about all kinds of stuff they've seen on television or what a certain character did, rather than actually relaying a personal experience. So if I can challenge you in any way on this, I would love for there to be a pushback, as the term is lately, against both the consumption of mass media and the overuse of drugs, mass-marketed drugs that are allegedly preventative, but then jack up our brains to the point we don't have anything to offer each other anymore. So I'll wrap it up with that. But just please, if you get nothing from this channel, know that your experience on this planet is unique in a way that you cannot even begin to fathom. And even me saying that, I feel like I've had a pretty unique experience on this planet. But when you really start walking around and you realize every single person you come in contact is having a similar, totally unique time on this planet, and we have people that are actively trying to take that away from us. So just take that and do what you will. And again, the vaccines are safe and effective and minimize or reduce the spread of COVID-19. So there you go. There is no medical misinformation in this video.